Well, so want to hear, and if you remember way back, we were not getting as many wins. We're starting to see those wins come in, starting to see conversations. That's a win. So that's great. You don't have to have something under contract for that to be a win in this career. Um, so one thing I want to talk about, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about the lawsuit. I am talking about some of the ramifications of what's going to happen with us. Um, so I think we all remember it's a proposed settlement. So nothing's for sure. I do think there's a couple things that probably will be for sure. One is no compensation listed on the MLS. And number two is you will have to have a buyer's rep agreement. Okay. How that'll change the landscape, I think is yet to be seen. I don't know that's going to change it that much. However, I do know we all are going to have the conversations uh, about the buyer's rep and how you get compensated for your work. So if you think about a listing agreement, we all go in there with a listing agreement, and that's pretty easy to explain your value and have that consultation and show everything you're going to do. Most everybody that's done I mean, you're used to that. You're able to list off all these things you're going to do as a listing agent, right? Well, now we got to do this with buyers as well. So it is time for us to sharpen the saw. It is time. You're not going to be doing a whole lot different than you were. Your value's still there. And if you're not doing some of these things, it's time to start doing those things. So uh, so how do we have that conversation? How do we get in that? Well, I think it all starts with that buyer consultation. Okay. Now, when the buyer's rep's going to have to be signed, I think it's still kind of up in the air. Most people think it's going to have to be signed before you show them house one. I really don't know where that's going to come into play. So that part, but I think the buyer presentation, that's when we present the buyer's representation agreement. Right. So you've heard out there, and I've listened to honestly, probably 15 to 20 different talks on this NAR settlement. And one thing I keep hearing over and over and over again, agents are going to have to show their value. Agents are going to have to show their value. Nobody explains what that value is. So one thing I want to hear from you, you don't have to do it right now, but start thinking about it, is just give me one thing in a minute on what you do now that shows value to your buyers or your buyer client. Okay, so you as an agent, how do you show value? So in the initial meeting, once we get them in for a buyer consultation, which again is now more important than ever, we've created a book for you. You've got the buyer's representation or the buyer presentation uh, format, that you can go through with it. Okay, it shows a lot of your value through that uh, presentation. You get there and go through the step-by-step process. You know, and through that, there's going to be times where you're going to be saying, "Hey, I'm going to make sure you have all the documents." You realize there's almost 100 confidential documents in transaction desk. Okay, you as an agent know which documents are required. Okay, a wrong document could be could mean an end to a deal if you did it wrong. So just knowing that, making them understand that there's over 100 residential documents that the Tennessee Association of Realtors has out there. We've got to make sure we use the right documents. Not only that, one of those documents you should be presenting is the timeline checklist. If you look at that timeline checklist, there is, not even counting the offer, there's 13 deadlines in that checklist. So when you start telling that buyer that, hey, there's all these deadlines, and if you miss one deadline, that could mean you lose your inspection period. That means you could lose your earnest money. You start explaining that stuff, that you're going to keep track of those deadlines for them. That shows your value. Okay, that's not even counting the offer deadlines. So your purchase sale deadline, your the counter offer, those things there, the binding agreements, those are extra deadlines put into this offer. Also, the NAR has put out 105 different things you do as an agent, and we'll put that. I'll print that, or I'll put that as collateral in the hub so that you can grab that. You could actually add that to your booklet in the back of the presentation. Also, we should be bringing the buyer's representation agreement and letting them look over it. Okay, maybe before they come to the meeting, give them a chance. Sale should be given to them at the buyer consultation. Give them a chance to look over these things. If you guys read your buyer's rep agreement and you have any questions about what it means, or you can't explain it, now's the time to figure that out so that you can flawlessly say it. Okay. But at some point in this conversation, you're going to have to talk about compensation. You're going to have to tell them how you get paid as an agent. It's not always the seller pay. Now, if we look at it the way it is, as a listing agent, you go in, they agree to pay X percent of dollars to the brokerage. Brokerage agrees to pay another brokerage for them bringing the buyer. Okay. I don't think that's going to stop necessarily. Now, there's going to be agents out there and there's going to be maybe even companies that come in and they're going to go after the low listing, low dollar. We're going to see that. However, and a lot of this is yet to be seen. However, what happens if you in the offer put 3% or you request 3%? You have a buyer, first time home buyer. Let's just use that. Let's say that buyer's a VA buyer and you put 3% in the seller to pay it. They're not going to pay it. That buyer has saved up money for closing and for moving, but does not have money to pay you 2, 3, whatever you negotiate your company. Well, that's going to be a non-allowable. As it stands now, the VA loan will not allow the buyer to compensate you. So that's going to have to be addressed somewhere through all. Only that, and I've talked to a couple of lenders, a CEO actually of a mortgage company, and what happens? So if you do an FHA loan, let's say you put 3.5% down, you're only allowed to ask the seller for 3% for so as long as they don't look at if you ask for 2.5% commission or compensation to be paid by the seller, as long as they don't look at that as a concession, they just truly look at that because that's truly how it is now. You do a compensation agreement, we'll be fine. So I think a lot of that's going to have to be defined in this. But at some point, you're going to have to tell the buyer if they don't pay, here's the number and this is what you worked. Okay. Well, to do that, and when you do that, now you got to show your value. And that value is all these, there's 105 of them that the NAR's put out. There's about that many in here as you go through that. Showing them all those timeline checks. It's not counting the VIP things that you may do. It's not counting, maybe having the house clean before they move in or providing them with a mover or a gift card for moving or whatever. It's not counting those VIP things. These are just things with documents and all that. So as we look at, sure.
Sorry, this is my first call. I don't know if we're supposed to wait to the end to ask questions or we can ask as we go. But so this timeline checklist, like I know I've done one. Are you saying that there's one in on paperless? Are you saying it's one in here somewhere?
It's form RF 708 in train.
Oh, okay. There's an actual .RF 708. Yep. Okay, and then
there was no reason for us to recreate that form. It's actually a really good form to use that can keep you on track.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna look up that now. And then as far as the NAR list, you said you were gonna put it on the hub. Where's that?
Yeah. So where you signed up for Winning Playbook, if you go there, we've got the past videos, and then under each video, if we've said like, hey, send this email out, and we provide the email, it's downloaded there.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep. So it'll be
If you
105
search,
things. It goes
if you
from
search your
counseling,
email
it goes
for,
from do what?
if people search their email for welcome winning playbook, then they'll find the first email that they got that has their link and the password to the hub.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and Tanika, all our past videos are on there that we've done for the last 7 months. You can go back and watch them. And then
7 months. It's
yeah,
been going on for 7 months.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
time flies. Okay.
Well, we welcomed you today.
Well, thank you.
So, but the NAR document goes from building a relationship, educating the buyer, preparing the buyer, showing properties, what all you do and arranging tours, and then how you negotiate property or the offers, and then advocating the buyer and facilitating the close, and then how you take care of that buyer after the close. Because you should be talking with that buyer at close and let them know that, hey, I'm not done. I'm still working. I'm going to provide you a market update for your neighborhood and your property every month. Not only that, let's go ahead and schedule maybe in 1 year to do a property equity evaluation and see what your real estate is doing for you. Go ahead and schedule that, and then do a complete CMA and meet. So you do those things in your calendar. You figure out if you had 15, 20 buyers last year, that's 15, 20 appointments that you're getting back in front of these people, and another chance to ask for that referral or talk to them about referral. Or just you're continuing to show your value after the sale. So, so I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear at least one thing, and don't make me call on you. At least one thing you feel like you've done to add value to your buyers.
I think it's critical to help walk them through, honestly, the process and to give them the full 360 view picture of the buying process. A lot of agents just jump in there and they don't even communicate with them. They don't really sit down with them and explain to them, this is how it works. And then also I could provide you these resources to make it more of a seamless transaction. So it's actually an enjoyable experience.
I agree with CJ. I have like a buyer's guide. I find a lot of stuff on Etsy, but I kind of recreated it in Canva. So I'll try to have a conversation with them, try to do it in person, but I'll also go over the guide, give them a copy, and email it to them so that they know the step-by-step process. Because I have a lot of first-time home buyers. And then I also, y'all probably talked about this in the past, but I've signed up for that free, what is that, buyer, you get those letters, the, what is it talking about? Like the buyer rep that they're offering, the NAR, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the ABR in it.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yes, free right now.
Mine's today at 10.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, I know. I think mine's is in April. And then the last thing, this is y'all probably talked about this too. This is just before I forget, touching back on the settlement. I know Real Tracks is having something Wednesday at 1 to kind of go over the settlement. I've signed
The
up for
lawsuit.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yes,
back to your initial
yes,
question, I agree with CJ.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, NAR or Real Tracks is having their attorneys talk about it on, I think, times Wednesday and Thursday. Is that right, Fran? I believe they got 2 times scheduled.
Wednesday.
NAR actually, and NAR's got one. I'm actually signed up for NAR's. So So there's many of them out there. You guys are going to hear so much stuff. Just don't get a lot of, a lot of things I've been hearing, not from attorneys necessarily, but it's like what Cran said the other day in the video. A lot of this stuff is we just don't know yet, and people not be talking about it yet. And again, we do feel pretty confident that compensation coming off the MLS doesn't mean the seller can't offer compensation. Okay, I don't necessarily personally think that's going away. It's just how we ask for it, and we've got to be better at explaining to our buyers how we do it, and then I think the buyers reps. Well, I know the buyers reps going to be required. That's why we started in January 1st requiring that. That was not a required document by by TAR, and or TREC, in locally. But we knew it probably was going to come down. And so on January 1st, we started it. You need to start getting into practice. And you need to be starting right now in practicing talking to your buyers, letting them understand everything that you do. There's a lot you do. I would dare say there's more you do as a buyer's agent than as a listing agent, if you really wanted to put it out. So, be very transparent, and have these conversations.
Hey, Rick.
So, yeah.
So we have some resources in references and paperless pipeline for a buyer's pledge. That's something I've always used. I learned that from the Jumpstart training within United Real Estate. So, I present the buyer's pledge along with a full packet of documents. Plus there's a roadmap in there, like CJ was talking, to kind of tell people what the step-by-step process looks like in a very nice visual. And so we have resources and references under paperless pipeline, not only for the buyers, but also for the listing side as well. So I just want to let people know that that's there.
Yeah. And it's actually in your, there it is right there in the buyer's station. Again, you can customize. You could add the roadmap in there. It's not. I mean, it's got steps, but it doesn't have the actual roadmap. But at the end, it's got the buyers going to do, and what you expect from them. So that's in there. And like Tanika, you can add documents that you would like or whatever. Again, I do think one thing is to your initial consultation with them, give them the purchase sale agreement to take home and read. Tell them, highlight anything that you have questions. That way, it's so clear when you go talk to them again. It's yet to be seen what forms are going to be added, if any. It's yet to see if they're going to edit our purchase sale agreement. So there's a lot of things we just don't know and what's going to happen. But again, we are going to have buyer's reps agreements. You have to have buyer's reps agreement in this office. And if you're part of another office, they may require it.
Can
So
I comment?
just be aware of that. And yeah, absolutely.
Hey, sorry, this is Monica. On the providing the purchase and sale agreement beforehand, something that I do with my buyers is that's something that I do, and I have a very intentional and specific conversation with them about that and why I'm providing it, because we all know that when we're in the heat of the moment and they've got 11 pages, well, more than that, that's just the purchase and sale. And if we're in the heat of the moment, time is of the essence, nerves are running high, they are not paying attention to what that purchase and sale agreement says. So that is something I send it to them in a dedicated email that is just that document. And I say those things to them. Hey, when we're in the heat of the moment, you're not going to be in a state of mind to read this. So I'm giving it to you now, so you have the time that you need to read this to understand it. And everybody loves that. And another step that, in the light of all that what's going on, and a new layer that I'm going to try to add to that is, I know there are certain things in that purchase and sale that I want the peace of mind knowing that they understand. So, and it's important to them. I mean, the whole thing's important, but we know some things are more important than others. That I'm going to highlight certain parts of the purchase and sale agreement that I want to make extra special sure that they are paying attention to it, because they may say they're reading it, but we don't really know how much they're actually absorbing what it says.
Good. Karen, that's good stuff. Anybody else?
This is Tanya. I use the buyer's presentation that that you all provided. I really, really like that. So I go over that, give them a copy of that, get a strategy session going with them to discuss their goals and what they're looking for. Of course, inform them, help them find some local lenders if they don't have one. I have suggestions or recommendations for them as well. And getting them, of course, set up where they can receive with KB Core, getting them set up on where they can receive the listings and stuff, get the daily updates or whatever different listings that are coming up, and just being present and being available, when they need me. So, yeah.
Good. I will tell you, if you really go over this, or you go over the one you've made, and you really hone down on what they want, and you let them know that you're going to keep them on track. So when they're looking for a 4-bedroom and they send you a 2-bedroom, you can easily say, hey, I did not schedule the 2-bedroom for showing because you guys wanted a 4-bedroom. And it'll save you time if you really spend time with your buyers and really learn and communicate what their needs are and what their wants are, and then evaluate those properties. Hey, we'd like to see this, because all of us have worked with buyers that just send us, oh yeah, we want to see this, 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 this. Well, this one looked cute. We just want to see it. That's time, and that's their time actually too. So, another thing is now, because, and again, we don't know how this will play out, but a buyer's going to tend to maybe start going, and these are some of the objections. We'll talk about this at another date, but some of the objections I see coming about is, well, I just go straight to the agent and I'm saving it. I should get it for, right. That's what they're thinking. It's going to be all these things, and as this plays out, that could happen. Now, will it play out that way? I don't know. But we, in that consultation, we should hand them a stack of cards and encourage them. Hey, if you see an open house, you go. That's fine. Just let me know and hand that card to the agent on duty. Let them know that you're working with me, and then we'll evaluate that property if that's something you want to get into. You should be doing CMAs, a little more comprehensive CMA for the buyer when it comes down. I know the Mayfields were helping somebody, and they did a CMA on that property. It was a hard CMA, so we had talked. That's why I know about this, and to come up, because the house was 30,000 higher than the comps. So how do we put in a good offer? Well, if they're not represented, would have this buyer done that? Probably not. They would have just put an offer in for the list price. They wanted the house, but yet here about 30,000 less than list, right, Christopher? That y'all got it for?
Yes.
Yep. So that's what this is, the value you show, and that is something now that the Mayfields can use when they talk to the buyers. Say, look, their house that's $30,000 at the list. We did an analysis, and people wanted the house, but we put an offer where the value of that house is, not just because because remember, we talked in past. There's three values there. You got the seller value, you got the buyer value, and you got the appraised value. So the seller value is most of the time higher, and if they didn't have a good agent helping them with that price, they may be priced way high. So that was an excellent value compared to the commission, that $30,000 saved them a lot of money. So that's just one example. So anybody else got anything?
Good
This is-
morning, everybody. This is Gay. And something that
Gay.
my philosophy has always been, folks get in a rush and we do so much electronic signing that no matter if they do sign electronically, I always make sure that I call them and say, we need to know the why of the what. What are you signing and why? And let's go over it. And I do that because the other part of how I like to run my business is the other theory, no surprises. We don't want any surprises at the end of this. And I've gotten away from this, but since we are going through these challenging times with the thing that's happened with NAR is to get folks to initial when they don't want a home inspection and or they're cash buyer and they don't want an appraisal. I want them to initial that they checked no, because I've actually had a couple of deals where, they go in, they turn the water on and the pipes burst and come through the ceiling. And they're like, well, why didn't you offer me a home inspection? Well, I did, remember? And you and your husband initialed that you didn't want it. I encouraged you to do that. So that's another theory of no surprises. But as one of the other realtors said here, they get in a hurry and they're excited and they don't want to miss this house and they just check that box and sign, but they need to know the why of the what. What am I signing and why am I signing that? And that's another, that's what we get paid to do.
Yeah.
Educate our buyers.
Long gone is where we should just say, hey, I sent you a couple of docs to sign. We should be going over those docs,
Right.
I mean, every one of those documents, so that we went over this, buyer inspector. I told you, get a home inspection. That's what the form's called. And you signed that you weren't going to get one. That actually, we require that document because we've had problems with that before. Where no, I can do it. Why didn't you tell me to get a home inspection? But, another thing of value y'all can add, and I know it takes more time, is that when I say pre-inspection, I'm not saying inspect the home. I'm saying you've driven by, maybe you did a broker showing, or you scheduled a showing, went through the house real quick and said, this is not the size kitchen they want. Hey guys, I went and toured that house prior to you coming. I want you to know that kitchen is not the size, or what didn't have what you wanted, or they wanted a walk-in closet. That closet was, they said walk-in, but it's not a walk-in closet. So when we do that, that shows value too, that you're saving their time. And it actually ends up saving you time. You can go through it by yourself very quick compared to what they do. So a lot of these things can be incorporated in your presentation now to really show that you're there, and you're going to be showing everything you do and why you get compensated for it because of all the time that you spend. A lot of these things, obviously, once it's built out, it doesn't take as much time as it sounds, but we do need explaining everything out that we do.
Also, I know that we've gotten away from paper, but I like to take a paper MLS sheet and show them the price per square foot. And if they're looking at more than one, and this one's grossly more per square foot, then you point out why. You point out why in matters of what would make a difference on an appraisal. Just because sellers add this and that and the other, like a pool, I know we wear that one out, it's not going to really give them that much more value the way an appraiser looks at it. So I like to do that too, is show them why. Why is this price per square footage this on one house and it's this on another? And it puts people at ease. Knowledge is power, not only for you, but for the buyer as well.
Yep. I like to do some of the same stuff. I like to take the MLS. I like to do a quick, so if we've had a really good consultation with them, we've really narrowed down what they want. We're showing less houses, or we should be showing less houses. So the houses you do show are really under consideration for them. So it's not a bad idea to do a quick little CMA just to have a good idea of what that neighborhood, what's sold in that neighborhood. and think of the value that is when you're sitting at a home in a neighborhood and you can say, yeah, well, 3 doors down, that house sold for this house over here sold. I do know we got one coming soon over here. Look at the knowledge that you just brought to them that they don't have. So there, you got to remember, the computer has given the consumer access to almost everything you have.
Everything.
They are looking what you are. However, one thing they're not really seeing or not knowing how to look up is those off-market properties. So we say, well, what's an off-market property? Well, we talked about this already. It's those expireds. It's those homes that were canceled or withdrawn for some reason. You can have that conversation there and say, man, we really love this neighborhood. We just don't like this house. Well, I know of 2 that expired 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, and they're off market. So that's something I do in my consultation. I said, if we don't find anything, I will be looking off market. That's something that they do not know how to do and don't have. I mean, they probably can find the access to it, but they don't have ready access like Zillow or Realtor.com where they can pop it up. So,
I have a
by the way, real quick, I want to tell you something. The other day Corinne and I had a presentation with Homes.com. When those people ask you about crime, schools, all that stuff that we probably should not be commenting on, send them. You can invite them. So if you go to your Homes.com, you can invite a client to it, and then send them to it, and they can pull that property up and hit. I can't remember what it's called. There's a button up there about the area, the neighborhood, and it brings all the crime map up and everything right there, and tell them to go look at it. But if you invite them and they accept it, you're still in front of them on Homes.com everywhere they go. So just a little extra. Go ahead, Tanika. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I on my current listing, and I do plan to do professional measurements, but have you guys noticed in the past, because there's like a discrepancy with the tax record and what was listed on the MLS historically, or historically, which one is more accurate?
So
Is there
Angie just had one, and it's 1,400 square foot on the MLS, but the house is really 2,200 something square feet. Of course, they had the architectural drawing from the build over that. But so yes, that happens all the time when you have that discrepancy. Either pay for the measurements, which is about $150, I think, and they actually give you a schematic of the drawing. So it's because you'd be shocked how many times you pull more square foot out of that house and actually get them more money. The other thing you can do is when you do your profession, you can use a company like Hamadi to do your professional pictures. And then also Angie was telling me she had one that did the same thing. And when they do, they'll do that in their picture package. They'll do that schematic with the measurements and everything. So it's something else to think about.
How do you spell that?
Corinne, Honnati.
Yeah, that's correct. I'll put a link in. I'll put a link in the chat.
If you go to, if you want to see their work, you can go to 15 Nature Ridge Road in Tullahoma, and you'll see on Real Tracks. You'll see the everything there.
Nature Ridge. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Ariel, thanks for being with us today. I do want to let y'all know that we're probably going to stay on this subject for a little while. Just about adding value and dealing with buyers. So we're not going to talk about generating leads. We're not going to talk about converting leads. We're not going to talk about some of that stuff because as we move forward, things are changing weekly. And as we learn more, and where Corinne and I get our information is from either United's attorneys or NAR's attorneys or something like that. I would encourage you. I thought Jared James, he interviewed the sitting president of NAR right now. I think that was a good. That's another link we could put out, Corinne. I thought that was a good interview. it help you understand a little bit of where NAR and why you hear so much bashing on NAR right now. But I think when you hear that interview and understand why they were hand tied on not coming out and telling us, they were actually obeying the terms of the settlement, where these news stories got leaked and went out. But the consumer is hearing so much, I mean, even the president of the United States said it's going to be 3% cheaper, basically.
Ugh.
So there's a lot of misinformation out there right now, and we have to be professional. We have to explain it appropriately, and we have to show everything that we do and why we do get compensated so NAR has come. Buyer's representation was not a thing. What 25 years ago? I think it was kind of a free for all out there. So NAR did a lot of work in creating buyer representation. So we got to give them some credit. Have they done things wrong? Well, I mean, we're all fallible, and so I think it's time though that we unite and and start taking the things that we can get from the collateral that NAR gives us to put out there and to learn from. They're doing the the accredited buyers representation free right now. So I think I think agents need to be taking that. So that's
Vic, can I ask you a question about all this?
Sure.
I'll go to general. I've already had realtors calling me, what do you think? What do you think? And I watched Corinne's video, and I'm trying to be very ethical and keep my opinions to myself because I don't have enough information to make a wise decision at this point about any of it. It's so convoluted and complicated. And also, even my husband, who's back to work now from his health issues, he's had people at work come up and ask him, well, I heard that, blah, blah, blah. So, which is the reaction, I think, of the general public. So, will we be having at some point a meeting to go over some of these issues, that how we should answer them, where are we headed with this? And, I think it's going to be more than
Sure.
one meeting because it's complicated. The company that I came from had an issue with a buyer and required us to have a buyer's rep. And that's something that I always did when I was at Exit, but I didn't like filling it out the first time I met the client because there's some clients you may not want. It may not be a fit for you to work with them. You may not want to put yourself in that situation. Maybe another realtor is a better fit for them. But that form, number one is the question about the meeting. When do you plan on doing that? And number two, will that buyer's rep be changing as it is now? Are there
So
any changes to the form?
first of all, the play of the week this week, and not that it's very fun or sexy, I want you to read over and read so that when we come back next week, we're going to talk about the buyer's rep, how to present it, what's some best practice. That it's not a scary thing for you as an agent to present. I agree with you, and we've got to make the buyer comfortable with signing it. So, you just, and I will give you my thoughts. We are, in one of these sessions, I'm going to actually role play with somebody on doing this buyer's rep. Okay, that you have that, and then we're going to role play objections. Okay, so all that's coming.
Okay.
Obviously, we're 15 minutes over normally what we are now, usually, but all that's coming. And that's why I said we're going to hone in on this for a while, because I want agents that want to be professional and want to do this in the correct way. I want to give them as much as we can to help them with that. Yes. So yeah. I mean, and like it's like the contract deadline, and it's all that. How do we? I mean, a buyer, I don't want to be tied to you for 6 months. I don't want to be tied to you. We've got to present this to them in the correct way. Okay, and we've got to make them comfortable. Look, if you and I aren't working together and we're not working well together, I absolutely will let you out of this. How do we portray that to them so that they're comfortable. So yes, please read that buyer's rep over and over again. Highlight any questions you have for next week, so we can go over it together, make sure we all understand it, and then as we move forward, we will present better things. But right now, when the public asks you those questions, it's just a proposal. Okay, that's it. And one, as agents, we are, we are waiting to get guidance from how all this. We just don't know. But right now, you are here to represent your clients and represent them to the best of your ability in a professional manner, and take care of them. And that's really all they need to know right now, because we don't know. Okay, so we're
I had a
preparing for
couple of
things
things,
we're
Rick.
pretty sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I had a conversation. A guy came up to me this weekend, and I guess I don't, I'm not on TikTok and I'm not on these like stories where a lot of this stuff's popping up or whatever on people's phones, but the misconceptions out there that there was a standard number for commission, and now it's negotiable. I do think you can comment on that. I think you can say compensation has always been negotiable. So this isn't anything new. I think some of that stuff is hype, and I think you can even say some of that is hype. Um, and some misinformation that's put out there. But I think getting in arguments or getting into heated conversations about different things, obviously we avoid that stuff. But um, you know, and if you watch the Jared James link that I put in there, there's some good information, like Rick was saying, that President Kevin Searcy had mentioned, of why there hasn't been a lot of talk from NAR. I do think some of that stuff will come out and be cleaned up a little bit. But again, it's ratings for everybody, to put this media out there and click and all of these things. So I think, if you explain the way that your business is always run, which, it's always been negotiable. I've had the value, here are the values. Are there going to be some things that may change? Yes, but it's very similar to what in our state we've always been we've had buyer agency, and we've had buyer rep agreements. You guys got to understand that where this lawsuit came out in Missouri, they did not have that, and there's many other states within our country that do not have that. And so it seems like, and it's been picked up as this big thing that's always uh, you know, uh, um, the greed or whatever else is there. So, I think, okay, it's come to light now, and for us to be able to just say, hey, this is the way we've always done business, or this is the way I've always done business in Tennessee. Um, so, and be confident in that part at least.
That's
Yep.
right.
So yeah, and so just like I say, we're going to be learning new things, and things will come out, and but everything we're talking about, value, the buyer's rep, these are things that we should be doing anyway. Okay, so doesn't matter what changes, whatever. These are things we're doing anyway. So yeah, we will absolutely keep you abreast as we uh, learn and we get more guidance. Um, and yes, be careful. The other day, I actually saw a post, and it listed all the brokerages that weren't under the settlement. Okay. Understand, you as agents were never sued. You as agents will never be sued. Okay. They're going after where the big money is. So United Real Estate was under there, and but you guys are not affected by that. So I'm starting to see some of this as fear. Hey, you guys are still in the lawsuit. You need to come join us. It's never affected you or will affect you. So just remember that when you see that stuff, it you know, and remember, we still got the buyers who's out there still. So things are changing. But as long as we're showing our value, we're transparent, and we show how we're getting compensated, you'll be fine. And I think that's what we should do. So,
Yeah.
all right, guys, we have gone over. But it's a good conversation. I appreciate everybody that shared. And we will meet again next Monday. Don't forget on Thursday, Matt and Dr. Ben on the Brokerpreneur open time for you guys. We'll send you out that link. Again, read your buyer's rep. Understand the agency status is in there. So that's in your buyer's rep. Talks about the different agency statuses. So understand what kind of status you are with your. All right, guys, have a great week. Can't wait to hear some wins next week. Please call Cran or I Cran's on vacation. Call me if you guys need anything or need any help with anything. Okay.